Out on the cold, lonely stretches of the Alaska Railroad, strange stories have a way of traveling faster than freight. Sometimes, they're carried by whispers in the wind, or by a ringing phone that shouldn't ring at all. Take for example the curious tale of Mile 386. There once stood an old cabin, cozy enough for weary moose hunters and travelers seeking shelter from the bitter Alaskan nights. But each night, as the fire burned low, an old phone, completely disconnected, would ring.
Hello? Is anyone home? Can I come over?
You might imagine how eagerly some lonely travelers searched through icy darkness hoping to find the source of this mysterious caller. Yet, despite their best efforts, not a single wire connected this phone to the outside world. Eventually, the cabin's caretaker, an Irishman named Tom Bagley, decided he'd heard enough.
Ack! Enough of these shenanigans. I'm burning the blasted place down. Too many weird stories for this Irishman.
But ghost phones, it seems, aren't easily silenced by mere flames. Further down the line at Windy Station, another disconnected phone continued ringing its eerie calls. This time, travelers would hear the persistent voice of a young woman seeking someone named John.
Is John there? Is John in?
Legend has it, Big John once had a sweetheart in Nenana, but one day, both mysteriously vanished. Years later, Bill, a railroad detective stranded in a blizzard at Windy, decided it was high time he solved the mystery.
All right then, Miss Ghost Caller. Let's see who's been pulling everyone's leg.
Bill confidently answered the phone, but was greeted by the same desperate voice.
Is John in?
Wait, who is this? Who is this?
Is John in?
7 times Bill picked up that dead phone, and 7 times the ghostly caller hung up. Starkey, a skeptical lineman, blamed crossed wires. But why always the same voice, the same heartbreaking question? So the next time you're stranded along an empty Alaskan rail line, or the cosmic fold paranormal highway, beware any disconnected phones. You never know who, or what, might be calling.
The truth is out there, and it begins with you. Welcome to the Cosmic Fold, where we talk high strangeness. Call us at 928-288-2942. That's 928-288-2942. Or join us by video. If you're at a computer, just look for the link in the chat. Buckle up, sit around our virtual campfire, and let's get started.
And here we are.
Yeah, that was cool.
Well, we have a new gang tonight that came in through the cosmos. I'd like to welcome my brother Paul. Thank you for joining.
Yeah, I'm actually working tonight, but I thought I'd pop in for a few minutes here.
And Jose is still, he's remodeling a bathroom, so he's still stuck over there. And then we have Day and Elle, so welcome. Tonight's stories are about Alaska as we take our trips through the cosmic fold. So, Elle, you got your narration voice ready to go?
Well, yes, I do.
And Paul, how we do this, we could laugh and just interject as we go. So it's very professional.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Pinnacle, the pinnacle. This is Pulitzer material right here, man.
It is.
Chilly, Alaska, spooky and bizarre. Welcome back, fellow travelers, to the Cosmic Fold Paranormal Highway. Tonight we're taking a scenic detour through the largest and possibly strangest state of them all, Alaska. So buckle up, because this ride might get chilly, spooky, and downright bizarre.
All right.
Remember the word bizarre.
Bizarre. Yes, always remember bizarre. Let's rewind. How about that? To January 3rd, 1959, a frosty day when Alaska became the 49th state of the U.S. Known as the last frontier, Alaska is vast, beautiful, and rugged, with more wilderness than you could shake a Sasquatch at.
See, don't you? There you go, Dave.
Oh my gosh. When you think Alaska, you might picture glaciers, bears, fishing for salmon, or the mesmerizing northern lights. And yeah, you'd be right. But beneath its majestic beauty lies a treasure trove of peculiarities. The mysterious straw. This is it right here. If you're watching, my wife Day here posted this on social media on Facebook, and it's a picture of Danny Trejo, Machete, and the quote says, "How I feel when people tell me you're a very strong woman." And he's got these two bows. If you can imagine Danny Trejo with two pink bows, and then yeah, well, some are listening.
Oh,
yeah,
okay, this is Radio 2.
Radio 2, yeah, and what does that say? "Keep off my rear, I'm explosive," and of course, it's a picture of a vintage Pinto.
So,
It's the mysterious strong woman who visited Alaska in a Ford Pinto. It was a Focus, but yeah, she drove that from Raleigh. Raleigh?
Yeah, I did from North Carolina. I did drive to Alaska.
Anchorage.
But Alaska is so vast and huge that to say you've been in Alaska, a lot of people have, but nowhere near where you were.
Yeah. It's people say, "You're from New York City. Do you know Bill?" Yeah, he lives down the street from me. There's only 10 million people in a 3-mile high by 1 mile wide island. You know, that's it. That's good. But yeah, first thing Day said to me when she got off the plane, she drove there. She drove her sister and our niece there. And she gets off the plane. I'm going to pick her up at the airport. And one of the first things she said was, "You would not believe how big moose are in person."
As I was reading through, Paul, what this part is just this is how we teach history on the Cosmic Fold class.
That's right. And, it's a very informative show.
But as I was reading through these newspaper things, one of the articles, well, I ran into several of them, and they all kept saying they called helicopters Alaskan mosquitoes.
Alaskan mosquitoes.
And then another thing was when we get into these like paranormal or weird stories, the newspapers there were really, really skeptical, except for all these things about phones ringing, which I thought was very odd. Yeah. So,
well, you say moose are big. It's interesting when you see a moose walking. It looks like he's just walking along fairly slow, and then you realize he just went a quarter of a mile.
Yeah. You don't see it coming.
They're not running fast. It looks like he's just walking along slowly, and then all of a sudden, wait a minute, you just went across the whole fence line.
We were in a Ford Focus, and we drove up through the Yukon to get where we were going, and just, it's everything they say it is. But it
was a Focus, not a Pinto. Sorry.
Okay.
Oh.
So you can rear end the Focus. You can't rear end the Pinto.
All I remember, like, it was that moment where we had the only road you can take, split a herd of bison. So they were on our left and our right. It was icy, and they were bigger than our vehicle. And we were all like, "Just don't breathe. We're just going to creep right through here." They were laying down. We were being chill. Turned off the radio. We're just like, "We're good. We're good." It was terrifying. The whole place is a nature preserve.
Paul lives way up in northern Wisconsin. Oh. And I brought a friend with me. We were visiting family and friends, and she had never been up there before. And so Paul is telling her, "Oh yeah, the bear come and they just rip the fences apart." She was so horrified. He was just laughing at Kitty, right? But she was so scared that I couldn't go anywhere. I had to like take her to the door of the house because she thought the bears were going to come rip her apart. It was so funny.
You know what's crazy there, though? Because the whole place is like a giant nature reserve where I was. We went to the zoo in the local area, and there was this stretchy, skimpy wire around a huge bear. And he was just sitting like 4 inches in front of this mesh pretend fence. And the kid that was with us, it was a long 5 days in Alaska in some ways. The kid that was with us was like 8. And he was about to touch the bear while I'm sitting there going, before I can get anything out. The guy, and no, the parents weren't paying attention. That was not my kid, but goddamn. Anyway, so the guy, the warden, is walking up with his breakfast. Thank God. Because then it beeline, and he looks at the boy real casual like, and he goes, "Yeah, I don't think I'd do that." And I'm just standing there like, seriously? That's all you have to say to me? It's just bizarre. Was the best thing I could come up with for Alaska and my visit there.
Well, you know, speaking of bizarre and Alaska and animals, did you know that Alaska has a town with a cat?
Can't do that.
A cat as a mayor? Mayor Stubbs ruled Talkeetna for over 2 decades. That's my kind of politics right there. And there's an actual town called Chicken, Alaska. Why chicken? Because locals couldn't agree on how to spell Ptarmigan. That starts with the T.
Ptarmigan. Yeah.
Ptarmigan. Thank you. Yeah, you're way further north than I am. But, you know, talk about solving problems creatively, right? Ptarmigan. Yeah, chicken. There. That'll work. Yeah.
I didn't have a clue. I'm glad you're saying it. Okay.
Yeah, you know. But you know what? Alaska isn't just quirky. It's mysterious, too. It's the state with the most reported UFO sightings per capita. Maybe aliens appreciate the scenery, or maybe they're as fans of salmon sushi. But there's been lights in the sky. More lights in the sky in Alaska than anywhere else. Now,
yeah, I read about
we discussed a few shows ago in depth the Bermuda Triangle, and part of that show was that there are a lot of other areas that have triangles. So let's talk about the Alaska Triangle, the Mystery Zone. It's a eerie region between Juneau, that's on the southeast coast, I guess, of Alaska, and it goes from there west to Anchorage, and then the northern point is a area that I'm going to try to pronounce.
Just call it Barrow.
Barrow, yeah, because Utqiagvik. I'm sure I'm just obliterating that. It has that whole area though, which looks like it's about a little more than a third. I'd say about a third more of the entire state. Has a reputation for bizarre disappearances. Since 1988, over 16,000 people have disappeared now. You know, obviously, you know, some are blaming the rough terrain, but others point to portals or hidden dimensions. Barrow. The Kushtaka. Now, this is funny because I'm looking at the picture and I'm trying to make sense of this. It looks like an owl, a dog, a bear, and a Colombian whistle. But we need to beware of this. This is serious. Alaska's.
That one was that picture came from the Alaska Museum of the Arts or something, and it was kind of like a native totem pole thing.
Yeah,
that
it's actually pretty cool. I put that in my house.
I saw the images of some of the creature that they showed was like covered in fur, and I don't know, it said it was a sea creature, but it was drawn as like a wolf snake. And I was like, that's fur.
Yeah.
So there's a
They're
lot
good
of
on
images.
AI as I am.
Yeah.
There's
Well,
a lot of images of this particular
yeah.
one.
And
Oh,
this thing here, again, it's called the Kushtaka. And yeah, this looks sort of like a totem pole with legs and a tail. It's part of the Alaskans' indigenous folklore, which of course is rich with tales of supernatural beings like the Kushtaka, who lure people into the wilderness. Ooh, Chihuahua time. Alaska, though, is it's majestic, and it is very mysterious. So there you have it. It's truly a state really like no other. So if you're there, keep your eyes open, your head up or down, your camera's ready, because you never know what you're going to spot there in Alaska.
If there's snow on the ground, which is a lot, please note, not everything you walk straight on is flat. Sometimes you're walking and there's a flight of stairs, or there is all of a sudden boulders you didn't know were there, or I fell down all over Alaska because it was Thanksgiving and everything was buried and it all looked flat. It's not flat. I went home so bruised from sledding with my niece down this amazing slope that was her back. It was the back hill before the next set of apartments, townhouses. You know what I'm saying? So there's this giant slope before hers. And we took out some linoleum, which is like pure plastic. And we just had a great time, except we hit boulder after boulder after boulder all the way down. Nothing is flat.
Yeah. It's almost like, we went.
I rode home on that 12-hour airline ride on a donut in tears.
Yeah. It's like when you go tubing. We went tubing down the Dan River. It goes from Virginia, Danville, Virginia, down to North Carolina. And I swear, my ass hit every rock that was under that water. It's like bam, 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 bam. So, yeah.
Yeah, Alaska's not what you expect in so many ways. And I know the weather conditions and the scenery based on I was around Juneau. So I was like right there. And we went out on a glacier. That's where I fell downstairs a lot that I didn't know were there, because he didn't say, here's the glacier. We're going to walk down 3 flights of stairs before we're the normal, because all this is fresh powdery snow. He just said, so it goes out this way. And before he got out, we're going to walk around this way. I went down the stairs.
Oh, no. Oh.
Anyway, I saw eagles fly by, and I saw caribou and moose. They sell moose poop in the store. It's a huge joke. I didn't totally get it.
Is it real poop, or is it like
it's debatable.
Like a fake
Some can
like
be
fake chocolate,
fake, and other ones are chocolate. It's
they sell elk poop with jalapenos in it here. So.
Yes. Some of it's novelties, like you send to your cousins and whatever. Some of it's chocolate. It's everywhere. And I'm like, this is a very strange fascination.
Oh, we learn something new every day. Okay, you ready for our weird Alaska now? Like that wasn't weird.
Weird Alaska, yeah. Ghostes, glitches and legends. We're going to take a journey into the last frontier, strangest stories now. So put your phone down and listen. Let's talk about a hot spot, right? Alaska is more than glaciers and gold. It's a hot spot for the paranormal and the unexplained. From ghost towns to UFO encounters, here are the top mysterious stories that still baffle locals and visitors.
I think ghost towns are so fascinating.
Oh, aren't they, though?
Yeah. Just to go there and snoop around and stuff, they're fun.
They are. Fairbanks. We haven't talked about Fairbanks yet. How about some cemetery ghosts? What do you think about that? Fairbanks, ghostly figures are said to drift between graves, especially in the Birch Hill Cemetery. Locals tell tales of a white lady in a vintage dress, often spotted near dusk. Yeah, drift between graves. See, I'm surprised that they're not male ghosts because we just don't ask for directions.
Have you have you noticed, so whenever there's ghosts, the women are always dressed in white, or like some of these other stories we covered, they're single, pregnant, and wearing a red dress.
Yeah, what's with that?
They're always like that.
I don't know. That's kind of weird, isn't it? I mean, it's weird to begin with, but then there's your extra layer of weirdness.
I think they're usually white because a lot of people who have the religious ties to believe that sacred ground, they would also angel, that this person is an angel or that person is an angel. And so that your mind will take whatever you see and turn it into something you can identify. So if you were brought up that way, I can see where most images are going to come up with white angels.
True.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah.
Any thoughts on that one, Paul? Our skeptic in the room?
Well, just like Jesus. Yep.
Does look like Jesus, kind of.
Wow. How about the Phantom Hiker of Resurrection Pass? So Resurrection Pass is an area where hikers report seeing a silent man who appears to suddenly warn of danger and then vanishes just as quickly. Is he a spirit or maybe a lost traveler? I've had people pop up on me and tell me that there's danger, but it was definitely not a ghost, though. It was a little Panamanian guy who said, "Mala agua." That's a story for another day.
You know what this kind of reminded me of, though, even though it's like totally unrelated, so I don't know why I thought of it, but I have met so many people that have talked about like the stranger on the road, always a truck driver, and they've broken down in the middle of like nowhere. And they'll come fix the truck, or they'll like patch their leg up if they've broken it or whatever, and then they just disappear. And then they try to find this trucker again, and they don't exist. Like they try to call the company, and I don't know what that is, why, you get this kind of thing, but I must have heard the trucker story at least 10 times from 10 different people.
Yeah, I'm very familiar with that one. That goes around the boards.
Of course, they all watched the Pee Wee Herman movie.
No,
I haven't seen that.
I know one.
Last time I heard a story about Pee Wee Herman in a movie, it was not a good story.
Oh,
there's a funny truck driver scene.
But yeah, I mean, this one friend of mine, she had gone with it was like a high school reunion thing. She has since died from COVID, but she was, they were all out and they were going down, they were going to go hiking out somewhere in California. And the axle cracked on their car as it was driving down. It flipped the car and all this other stuff. And this trucker came and she was so shook up by it. I know she wasn't making it up. And he offered to pull. So he pulls the car back, kind of patches them up a bit, and then just drives off. And they tried to call the company. And it didn't exist. He didn't exist. And the people in this little town said, yeah, he shows up every once in a while, helps people out. And she couldn't stop talking about that for months because it shook her up so much.
Yeah.
So that's what you guys are in your trucking thing. Have you helped people on the road or?
We've helped a couple here.
It depends on a circumstance. We're more likely to help other people doing what we do, and especially any contractor senior that is loading heavy shit.
Yeah,
we understand the strain. We help with the pain because we're all in this together.
Yeah.
But there's not, usually when we're on the road, we got a load behind us. We can't just stop and help like that. But yes, individually, obviously, and out of professional courtesies, we let a lot of trucks have leeway in front of us because we know what it's like So it's a pay it forward thing, but we don't really have the opportunity
To stop. Yeah.
stop and do something.
Well, and then too, you don't know what the people are like, you know, that you're.
No, you know,
this.
there's a lot of uncertainty out there, you know, but you try to do the right thing, and
it's a whole nother level, though. As a female, if you're broke down, really being very cautious about who you flag down, because things just get tense.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? Even if everybody's fine, you know what I'm saying about this tension that you are, several of you, and I'm standing here going, please don't kill me.
Or sell me.
Yes, please don't take me with you. Please don't kill me. Whatever is about to happen here. But every time they've been nothing but lovely. So it gives you a little more trust, but you never know who you can, and that's what makes it scary.
Especially when we got to call.
I will say this though, for professional drivers who will stop and help, what they won't do is get involved with all the tie-up and the legal paperwork because of what this is going to do to their life, and might have consequences down the line, being called to court when they're going somewhere. So they are better off if you're good. Now 911 knows you're here. I'm out.
Yep.
You get liable for anything you do. So if you're like us, if your insurance is on you and your life's around you, you don't want to be identified. You're like, and peace out.
Yep. And that could explain why these trucks do
that.
You know,
It could. Yeah.
I'd heard about this town. I need to read more up on it.
Portlock. I'm also fascinated with abandoned towns. I have years of my life I will never get back from going down the rabbit hole on YouTube about abandoned towns, because you hear a lot about abandoned buildings, maybe ghost towns like from the old West, but when entire towns, just everyone and everything that was alive has gone, it's like, what in the world? And now this town here, Portlock, back in the 1940s, the residents actually took off after years of mysterious disappearances and sometimes brutal deaths, blaming a shadowy creature from the forest. And, you know, usually you don't find out why everyone left. Like Croatan, we discussed that a couple of shows ago. Croatan, up there in Virginia. But now we know why these people left, because they were afraid. I would imagine that was probably the main reason why they took off. And then in the 1950s, the entire town was just suddenly abandoned due to these mysterious deaths. And there are legends of Nantianak, I think that's how you pronounce it. That's the creature from the woods, the shadowy creature. They named it, and I'm guessing that's an indigenous name. But again, in the 40s and the 50s, you know, you don't really hear too much about abandoned towns. You know, it's usually those old gold mining towns from the 19th century. You know, you can say, okay, well, the gold dried up, the coal dried up, the silver, whatever they were mining dried up, and they left. But this, you know, to have a whole town just say, you know what, I'm done. Bye. Keep my stuff.
Yeah, I need to look for some documentaries on this one.
Actually, I looked into that one. And there's a real reason it happened. This is just the way people spin shit.
Okay, good. That's what I was wondering.
It was one of those that a certain thing happened and there's no work here. It's not a viable place to raise families and continue. And so, yes, rather rapidly, they all left, but there was a problem there and they all left willingly. Apparently there was like a death here or there, non-related. And it became the story, when actually it was not a mystery at all. You just kind of follow what was going on. But you're talking about a time when they don't have the internet. They don't know what's going on around the world. They just hear, all these people just disappeared. No, they didn't. They moved.
Well, some enterprising person could just buy up the town and then turn it into like a tourist thing based on
Sure.
the spun story. I think that's what they've done with Tombstone, Arizona. It's the same,
Yeah.
Yeah, I hear these stories of abandoned towns and buildings. I would like to find one in real life and just snatch it up cheap.
Yeah.
Right? I know.
But not way out on the point of Alaska where it's just not sustainable.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Well, and that's what their situation was. This isn't sustainable, and they all left.
Yeah.
And it was like a trickle here, and then it was like a mass exodus.
It's like all the fish are gone. Bye.
Yeah. So
So much of the Nantinak or whatever the heck it's called. Well, maybe it's there and lives there.
The Nantianak. Nantia.
Is that how you say it?
I think so. I'm going on the two eyes in Hawaii as our point of reference. So I have no idea.
I will say, just from the parts I was in of Alaska, there was a lot of nature around, obviously, like caribou walking across the street in the mall. You're just like, you're in the cross thing of the mall. And the caribou are just walking around the street. You're like, this is so odd. But,
I said it sounded like that movie or series, Northern Exposure, where they had the caribou. I loved that show so much. I just love that show.
Well, I was there when they only had about 4.5 hours of daylight. So I can, and you got to remember, you got all kinds of crystal reflections coming off white ice everywhere. Like all the trees that had no leaves that were totally frozen, maybe, I don't know, 1/4 inch thick of ice on every branch. Well, when the sun comes out in the middle of that day, and these are all over the landscaping decor when it blooms of town and houses and everything. And so all of a sudden it'll start to melt a tiny bit. It releases the steam and there are rainbows shooting up out of the street. You're like,
wow,
did I just drop acid? What the hell? Because it's gorgeous. But the way the light reflects with the water vapor can do anything with colors. So anything can be flying by and reflect whatever light is reflecting and look odd. That's what I mean. There's so many stories of all these creatures, yet it gets really dark a lot. Yeah. And you're in the forest. So you can see where a lot of this comes out of, whether there's a logical behind it or not. I think people have had experiences with things they can't explain, but it would be about what time period, what it sound like, what were it's unique, you know?
Exactly.
Because it is a crazy place to be. You know what I mean? Not to mention, if you're in Alaska, all that mess screws with your sleep schedule and you're slightly off.
Oh, your circadian rhythm is just screwed.
You're on a different timing and your own little rhythm there. And there's a church and a bar every block. I don't know what is going on. But you have the indigenous and the natives, and then you have, the Americans that have all come in and stuff. And so it's an interesting place, and just the part I saw. So I see where all this comes from of, I didn't know how to explain it. So I tell my kids and neighbors this. Right. And there are still creatures, I'm sure, unidentified out there, because you don't know what happens when glaciers melt and new ground forms. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. Oh, that's a great insight. Thank you. Yeah, because you always have to wonder about this stuff. It's like, okay. Well, unfortunately, Jose isn't here to explain all these cryptids.
Oh, yeah. Jose's the cryptid guy. Yeah, cryptids, though, they fascinate me because you've got the natural evolution of Homo sapiens from Neanderthal, from before that, and you also hear a lot. There's been a lot of tribes, tribal people that have literally gone their entire existence without seeing another human being. That's not them. They're just isolated. So I'm kind of wondering, there's so many sightings of cryptids that are humanoid, that,
Yeah.
you know, I gotta wonder, you know, okay, maybe most of them are just, you know, tricks played on your eyes, but, you know, like what they said about glaciers melting and whatnot, who knows, you know, I mean,
Well, you also got to think of where people come from, because their skin is going to adjust over generations and thousands of years to their environment. That's what every animal, you adjust or you die. And so this is the natural. So some people are going to be of the palest thin skin ever.
like my sister-in-law.
And some are going to be thick. I will say this about the Alaskan people, the indigenous people. They are, it's not like a weight thing. It's almost like their body intentionally carries a fat layer, because it is freezing all the time. It's not like they figured out how to make it not cold. It's that they understood what it took to survive in this cold for that long. And so you're genetically, there's something out there now, a recent study talking about that now we've been so long with our phones doing this, we are genetically changing our height and shape of the future generations.
Yeah. Like a
so
bone
that's
is
what I'm
growing back
saying.
here or something?
The entire environment, you know, the creatures in the desert are used to not having a lot of water.
Well, you know how that happens too. Working in water rights, I do, you know, a lot of the big Native American water settlements. And I was doing a ton of research. This one was for one of the nations by Phoenix. And they were the Papago Indians. And back in the day, their place was actually marked on all the gold seekers that were headed to California to go there, because they already had these like beautiful places to live. They had just incredible food. They had this whole irrigation system a long time ago. Well, and then of course we wonderful white people had to go and start killing them and putting them on prison. Yeah. And so, and these people were tall. They were like over 6 feet tall. And I was reading these old army accounts talking about this. And pretty soon they're all rounded up and reduced to having to eat bark and bugs. And in just a generation's time, now they're, you know, I'm fairly short, only like 5'2", and I would be, you know, their height. Now they have shrunk that much because of all the you know, being deprived of food and
malnourishment,
water, and and you know, these reports were just fascinating reading, because you know it's in handwriting, and they talk about, and a lot of the military at that time, they had come over here trying to get out of the Civil War, and they were just horrified and trying to do something about this, and to say you cannot be doing this to these people. But they just devastated an entire community. So, Dave, I think you're right. You know, this thing on the phone all the time, I think it does create some kind of a
I've
change.
read several research studies on that now, because it doesn't just affect us that we're turning into this badly now, but it affects our kids who do it even more because they started even earlier.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean? And now they're kids, and I'm just looking at all the osteoporosis just forming, shrinking everybody a little bit. You know, but I will say, your environment does shape your genetics over time, for sure. Like the people in Panama, they're smaller, they're denser, they're darker in skin.
God, I was a giant
because
there.
you're living on the equator.
Oh,
they have wider feet because they walk around with very interesting shoes sometimes. A lot of flip-flops on rough terrain. I'm like, how?
A lot of bare feet.
Yeah,
barefoot
in the
too.
indigenous population still. But I'm saying they're a sturdy people, but they're so short. They're so small. Like, this is a big couch for them over here, and we'd call this, you know,
the
futon. So their furniture was smaller, their vehicles were smaller. Everything was. It was so hard finding his size clothes.
I walk down the street, and I'm
normal.
I'm over 6 feet, and I walk down the street there, and I'm looking at the tops of heads as
So-
far as I could see.
But we were in the mountains over there and in the jungles, and they were all doing coffee and farming all up and down
So,
these
yeah.
mountains, right on the volcanoes, the richest soil.
And
So they just like grew into this is the
Yeah.
way now. Their entire population.
and when you look at
is.
when you look at the climate up there,
They've definitely got different skin.
you know, you could see, you know, a population or a community that developed what we've lost, more hair, you know, over their bodies, more hair in their heads, more hair in their face, stronger muscles, maybe, you know, having the height thing. Sometimes, you know, if you like giraffes, they evolved because they eat from treetops. So, you know, I'm sure there's a lot of, excuse me, I'm sure there's a lot of science behind this, but people fear what they don't know. And you don't know if these cryptids exist. You know, who's to say that they're friendly or that they're aggressive, you know, or what? And there's a lot of animals in the animal kingdom, as a general rule, that do whatever they possibly can to remain hidden from view. So, you know, someone, you know, like it says here, the tornid, right? That's what we got up on the screen now. These are legendary beings that are described by the Inuit as towering, hairy wild men that vanish without a trace. There's a lot of primates that may not fit that height description, but fit that behavior. And hunters do fear encountering these cryptids in the woods, deep in the Alaskan woods. Parallels to modern, you know, to Bigfoot. But just like the ocean, there's a lot that we don't know about our own planet. There are areas that no one has seen, parts of the wilderness that have gone unexplored, even in this day and age, you know. So, you know, what's out there, left alone over the millennia to evolve. You know, they're not going to have cell phones. They're not going to have language. They're not going to have condos. They're not going to have boats, you know, but they're going to live largely as they did for thousands of years. And some of the, you know, I had a chance to spend a week on a remote island in the Caribbean with the native population, the Gunyala people. And on the island, there's no electricity. There's no plumbing. All of the buildings, such as they are made of thatch roofs and whatever wood that they can find off the island. They live a very primitive life. And here I am on the shore of this beautiful island in paradise. And, you know, here comes this native in a loincloth in a dugout canoe paddling to the shore with this catch of lobster. You could take these people and drop them 20,000 years in our past, and they'd function just fine. They'd be at home. So you just don't know. You really can't say, oh, this doesn't exist because you've never seen one. You don't know. We don't know, you know, what evolution has produced, you know. Look at the Kushtaka, right? This is supposed to be an otter shapeshifter.
That's the one I think you were talking about, Dave.
This is truly the oddest thing.
Was that the one that it said it was sea-like, but it had fur?
It said, well, according to native lore, the Kushtaka they lure people. Get a lot of luring going on. They lure people to the water by imitating cries for help, kind of like the siren. You know that myth about the lake there. Some say they can steal your soul or worse. They've been linked to mysterious disappearances, and again, you know, we don't know. There's so many things we don't know. I just hate it when people, you know, are like, no, that's impossible. It's impossible. Well, you know, it's impossible until it happens.
Yeah, but because we don't know, sometimes we make up complete bullshit.
We do.
Because we don't know.
Not like that town, yeah.
And that's what I'm saying, that we can just make. I used to hear him say the craziest things to our kids when they would ask something. And I'd be like, dude, you can't do that. You tell crazy stuff because they
What kind of thing?
and how does this work? And all of a sudden he's like, you take horses and you go to Mexico, and he just turn around. And I'm like, they're sitting there like, okay. And I'm like, oh my God, don't do that. So sometimes when we don't know what to say, we just Johnny on the spot.
Make
Say
something up.
and then it spreads like wildfire. Now
Yeah.
we can do it faster now with social media and the internet. But we used to just run home and tell everybody on our street, and then all the parents and the grandparents knew.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, some animals make noises and sounds that they almost sound mechanical. I was just down in Panama. I'm at a friend's house, well, a customer's house. I used to fix computers down there, and I hear someone's car alarm going off, and I'm like, these people need to shut the alarm off. It's just a pain in the neck. It just kept going on and on and on, and next thing I know, this lady's laughing at me. I'm like, what? She goes, that's a frog. I had no idea. It sounded like a car alarm. It sounded very mechanical, very computery. And she goes, that's a frog. She says, yeah, they do it all the time. And you just wait till you get woken up at 3 a.m. by a screaming spider monkey. That's fun. But anyway, so we think of animals making grunts and growls and barking or whatever they do. We don't think of. Did you ever hear a sheep laugh, a goat laugh? It sounds like a little child. It sounds like a child when they scream. It sounds like a human child or a human adult. So we hear all these things, and like they said, sometimes if we don't know, or if the science or if the technology isn't invented yet, we fear the unknown.
Yep.
Don't go out there. It'll steal you.
Something like that too.
It's uncanny.
the first time I heard one, they used to cross where I used to live, like right on the back porch, just cross. It was like one of the crossings. And they were going off. I literally thought there was a child being murdered.
Right?
Or
because
something.
they scream.
And I called my neighbor. We're out there with our flashlights running around, and her husband just thought it was hysterical because it was just elk.
Screaming of the lambs, Clarice.
Yep.
Yeah. How about the lake? Now, I am going to assume this is a Latin translation. The lake Iliamna monster, because there's 2 L's, and when I see 2 L's, it just automatically goes to the Y sound. But fishermen on Lake Iliamna, you want to Google that? See how to pronounce that? Lake Iliamna. Anyway, they tell this massive creature beneath the surface, kind of like Loch Ness Monster.
Yeah.
Sightings go back generations, and like I said, it does rival the Nessie. Man, someone's blowing up my phone.
It's our daughter.
It's our daughter-in-law.
Yeah. Sorry, I was coordinating a birthday present.
But it's Alaska's own. Our granddaughter turns a year old. Yeah.
Well, we'll be have like 10 more minutes, so.
Yeah. So this is Alaska's Loch Ness legend, and obviously we know we've talked about this isn't the only 2 stories that are out there about sea creatures, and again, there are parts of the ocean that are 4, 5, 6 miles deep. You got some crazy creatures down there,
and some are remote like that too. When I didn't have time to like totally research all of this stuff, but it looked like there were fishing clubs that, apparently there are a lot of these. So that could have just been one big rogue.
I mean, it could be, but
that they try to get.
I tend to lean more along the lines of, this is definitely possible when it comes to sea creatures.
Yep.
Only because of all the documentaries and all the nature shows that we've both watched over the year. I mean, we love anything by Attenborough. There's a show called River Monsters that I used to watch. Yeah, and it's this guy who catches these unbelievably large river monsters. I mean, these are, like 20-foot long catfish and just giant.
Oh, jeez.
So when someone says, hey, there's a Loch Ness monster, well, that's a deep lake. That's a glacial lake.
Yep.
You know, okay. You know, I'm not going to say it's impossible. And that goes for anything else. Yeah. I'm interested to hear what Paul has to say about it.
You've nailed it.
Okay. Birds are another thing. I never used to think about cryptid birds until I saw the movie Q, about the Mexican Quetzalcoatl, a giant, you know.
Oh, yes.
Quetzalcoatl or whatever it is.
I've
I
read
saw that
about it.
movie and I'm like, it's hiding in the sun, you know, and it's this giant thing. And I'm like, that no way. But then, you know, you look at some of these birds that have like 6, 8, 10-foot wingspans. Now, we were told I had raised chickens. And I had to put up what they call hawk netting because the hawks come down and they just grab your chickens.
Oh no!
And small dogs.
We have a plague of bald eagles. They take chickens and, like you said, dogs, and they're scary. So I can't imagine one that big.
No, and this one here, the Thunderbird legend. These things are supposed to be so big that to create storms with the flap of their wings. Now, that reminds me of Mothra from Godzilla. You know,
I don't see anybody picking up an elephant. Is that what?
It looks like it's an elephant or some sort of
it's a moose.
You know,
it's a moose. They're supposed to live in Wales and Meese.
Yeah.
It sounds like some grandma said, so that the kids wouldn't wander off.
Around, because
or Al, where does thunder come from?
Well, because when they oh yeah, right, yeah, you're right. I know. Well, it's this giant eagle. They report massive birds that defy belief soaring through the Alaskan skies. Some claim these enormous birds have been seen lifting whales and moose. It's rooted in native lore. Of course, it's still reported today, but all right, if you like Alaska and the Yukon, that whole area, even Michigan, Wisconsin, from there all the way up, there's a show. It's like 11 seasons that Day and I watch, and it's called Dr. Oakley, Yukon Vet. And it's really fascinating because she goes all over.
They are huge birds with 6-foot wings.
Yeah, so there are very, very large birds out there.
Bald eagles are huge.
Well, that's what I was going to say. You go face to face with a bald eagle. It's
you're not going to win. Those claws are like 4 inches long and
like
4 feet across at least.
You know, you could.
Cool show. You learn
It's a very cool show.
All
yeah,
of the Yukon creatures.
But I'm thinking, if there's a bald eagle, a fully mature bald eagle, 50, 60 pounds, 7-foot wingspan, can pick up a baby moose.
I've seen him pick up a baby deer.
Okay. Yeah. So if you're looking up and you see this bird, you don't know how high it is, unless you have that knowledge, and you see this giant bird carrying off what you can identify as a moose or a deer or something. Well, I couldn't see how that would extrapolate into, thunder and all this other stuff. And native lore had, their lore is very much connected to the land and the climate.
Yes.
So,
and a lot of things are just to scare your children.
Yeah, like hell. Anyway, UFOs and sky phenomena. That song is in your head now, and it's going to live there for the next couple of days. The Elmendorf UFO Incident from 1986. A Japan Airlines pilot reported a UFO larger than an aircraft carrier. That's pretty big. Said to be one of the most credible UFO sightings ever because radar confirmed a giant object trailing a commercial flight over Alaska in 1986. Of course, it was debunked by the FAA because, it's the government. But there's been, and we discussed this a couple of shows ago too, about how a lot of these airline pilots and military pilots are now, coming out and telling their stories that they're retired because they can't lose their job, for doing that. So I'd be more inclined to believe that there's an alien aircraft up there or a giant sea creature, than a ghost jumping between graves, I guess. There are things that are more plausible.
That FAA report, I'm going to probably write an article about. It was scathing. Oh my gosh, it was one of the most scathing ones I've ever seen.
Wow.
And,
send that to me when you get it.
Yeah, well, it's like 400 and some pages.
Okay.
But I kind of skimmed through it, and they pretty much debunked the thing about the radar, and also the site. That was probably the most scathing one I've ever seen. It was amazing. But a lot of people really hold fast to this one, so I have no opinion on it other than I was shocked to see it. Just reading that article was, I mean, those pages, I skimmed through them, but it was like, oh my God. So, but this one's a little different when you have an actual picture.
Well, yeah, again, Barrow, Barrow, that unpronounceable town that's next to it, had a lot of UFO sightings back in the 50s and 60s during the Cold War. A lot of strange lights appeared regularly in the skies of Barrow. Of course, with military bases and military presence nearby, speculation ran wild, as it would. You're that close to Russia. It's the Cold War. But it was seen by not just the military, but locals. It was reported in the Barrow Sentinel, that newspaper, back in 1965. But there are pictures out there that don't look like they've been doctored. Now, nowadays with a digital image, you can tell. I have software that'll break it down to the raw image, and it will tell me when these pixels were added. So if it's not a universal date, then I know just from my software that this has been an altered image, which really helps with AI stuff. But back in the 50s and 60s, if anyone had a camera, it was a little Brownie Fiesta. You remember those little square Brownie Fiestas?
Yep.
Yeah. Or maybe Polaroid in the 70s. It wasn't really high-end, photography, and most people did not have the very expensive equipment back then to touch up photos.
And I think this might be a copy of a copy in a newspaper. So, but it is interesting, with the military nearby and the Cold War, all of that. I think there's some legitimacy to this one, but we don't. It doesn't necessarily mean it's extraterrestrial. They could have been testing.
Could have been.
Like what we were talking about before.
That's what I was talking about. Is they could have been testing something else, and it was just totally misunderstood.
Yeah.
And so a military vehicle that they're trying to do whatever with makes sense.
Yeah.
But okay.
HAARP conspiracies. All right, HAARP, HAARP. I'm a little familiar with this. It's a research facility. I'll just read it directly for you. HAARP was built for atmospheric research, but some believe it's a tool for controlling minds, altering weather, or summoning something. Actually, it's atmospheric research. I've read about this several times, and I don't believe any of it. On this particular case, I know what HAARP is. I know what what they were organized, what they do, and I think controlling minds, altering weather, or summoning something. I think they're just rumors and just stories.
If you don't understand something,
it's just HAARP. HAARP is a very, very advanced set of research facilities, and they do a lot of the information they provide is beneficial to us as far as trying to predict where storms are going to go, hurricanes, tornadoes, tsunamis, and just anything that the atmosphere has an effect on. It's good. You should look into it. It's a really good organization. So this one, I'm just going to have to call BS on this.
That's why I put conspiracies in there, because it's we're at Marjorie Taylor Greene territory here.
Oh my God! She lives about 30 miles from us. She lives about 30 miles.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh,
I was up in her hometown. When did I go to Rome?
We
went up there
last week.
Yeah, every time I go up there, I'm like, I wonder where MTG lives. No, I don't want my truck to be seen anywhere near her place. Anyway, we're back to Barrow, Anchorage, and Juneau.
Yeah, we'll just skim through this one.
Yeah.
It's the triangle.
Yeah, it's a triangle again. And the Hale Boggs plane disappeared there in 1972. Of course, the theories were ranging from magnetic anomalies to portals. But again, this triangle stretches from Juneau to Barrow out to towards Anchorage. And it's swallowed aircraft, hikers, entire search teams with little trace. And again, we will go back.
That's a lot of territory.
Yes, that is a lot of territory. It's it's a very rough terrain. It's very remote. There's a lot of snow covering. What do you call those? Crevasses. That are hundreds and hundreds of feet deep, and the ground's always moving. And if you fall down one of those, unless someone sees you, then you're gone. You're never going to find you because the wind and the weather and the snow will just cover that hole up again.
Well, just like Dave was talking about, how nothing is flat as it looks, where you can walk on anything. And well,
also though, there's a lot going on there with waves of stuff we can't see. Do you know what I'm saying? And so if there's some kind of satellite void area, that's where all your crap's going to happen, because all of a sudden everybody's stuff goes boop. You know what I'm saying? There are dead zones in every area. I don't know if the magnetism is different, if their earthquakes are driven in ways that would change the ability for them to properly navigate and direct in that particular spot.
Well, it's also like what Paul said. That's a huge area. I mean, you look at that and you're like, that's thousands of square miles, hundreds of thousands of acres, and it's wilderness.
I can see that whatever disappears, no trace, just because of the way the weather is there. If something's under there, you're not going to find it, depending on when it has its melt, if it does.
Yeah, a lot of permafrost up there too.
Well, even around here.
Yeah.
But even around here, a bunch of the canyons, your GPS goes out, whatever, and they're missing all the time. They go back in there.
Yeah, I lost service in Appalachia. I was up in Appalachia last week thinking to myself, I should have bought that damn sat phone. I had no service and I had no idea where I was. And I'm pulling a 20-foot trailer on the back of a pickup truck. And I'm on these little 10-foot wide dirt roads going up through the mountains. And I'm like, I don't know if I'm going north, south, east, or west. Everything I depend on for knowing where I am is on my phone. And I have no signal.
And that's what I'm talking about as far as whatever's going on with currents or things we can't see that makes a spotty dead zone there can get a lot of people in trouble.
Well, look at the. Go ahead. I was just saying, look at the picture up on the screen now about time and reality anomalies. Denali hikers have reported repeating time loops, sudden shifts in trail conditions, deja vu like wildlife appearances, and is the park glitching? I like the source on this, Deb, the internet.
That's gotta be true
for you.
And I can tell you from personal experience, having spent years doing something called geocaching, that I have been in the woods and have gotten completely and totally turned around. And I'm not talking about the Yukon. I'm talking about like,
in Georgia.
like 20 or 30 acres off of I-85. No idea. And then I looked down.
I've had to force myself to follow the compass, knowing I'm going.
I know. Wrong. It's so surreal. I'm like, no, I'm not. The sun's not in the right spot. But and I did that. I followed. I was a Boy Scout. I followed my compass and I got out to the main road. But I'm wandering around there for like a half an hour. No, I could hear the highway. So this has got to be north. And then I look down and there's fresh bear poop, and I'm like, I need to find a way out of here. Like, Yeah, that's crazy.
And it's easy, you know, where the forest had burnt down here with the really bad fires. I mean, I've been so turned around with friends, and you're never so happy as to hear one of those four-wheelers going, you know,
I know,
that
right?
everyone hates. But once those quads, it's like, okay, there's civilization. And it gets scary when you're out there.
Or especially in Alabama. When we were in Alabama, we had all that land behind us. It was a 25,000 acre government preserve button up to our backyard. And, you know, you go in there, my son would go in there, we just go do a little exploring. Then you hear like gunshots.
Oh, God.
It's like, okay, it's legal to hunt. I'm not wearing anything reflective. Let's go back to the house.
Yep.
Yeah. The Silent City. There you go. Since the 1800s, travelers have claimed to see a complete, full floating city in the sky, clear as day, unreachable, and gone in an instant. The Phantom City is reported to be seen hovering over the glacier Bayali. Sorry, smoked too much. This image, if you're on your computer or on YouTube and you're looking at this, Alaskan prospector Dick Willoughby claimed he snapped that photo in June of 1888 while looking out over the Muir Glacier in southern Alaska. And he said that it showed a mirage of a silent city that could be seen emerging from the mist, the reflection of a real city thousands of miles away in Russia. They had pointed out about being in Alaska and having the sun play tricks on your eyes with the reflections off of, you know, flora and other things.
I looked into this one too, though. See, I like being nosy.
We like you being nosy.
I'm a homeschool mom. I gotta know.
Well, I was looking at like, what are they? I didn't get it, but go ahead, tell us.
I don't know about this particular scene, but what I was reading about this particular glacier is that it throws these crazy mirror images in the mist against the glacier and the water. That as boats pass, it'll show up as a palace on the wall or something. That it's not like just this thing or whatever, that it's this particular glacier with the way the water reflects. And when the mist is there and everything's right, it has like a mirror image effect of anything. It's like a mirage. It's like anything that it's picking up is showing on that projector.
It'd still be fun to see though.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Awesome.
There's some amazing pictures out there of what people have caught looking at this particular glacier.
Yeah. Very cool.
Sounds very cool. Okay.
Go down the rabbit hole on that one.
Oh
It's
yeah.
fun.
Oh, the Baychimo. This is a ghost ship, the SS Baychimo. Could be Baychimo, but I'm pretty sure it's Baychimo, but I don't know because I don't know. It's a cargo ship. All right. It was abandoned in 1931, refused to sink. So it was left to drift. Excuse me. Good Lord, man. It was left to drift in the Arctic waters, and it was sighted for decades, unmanned and lost to time. It's been seen, but has been unreachable per the Smithsonian Magazine in 2016. So this, excuse me, I could see this happen because there have been a lot of sightings of ghost ships that weren't really ghost ships. They were just abandoned.
Yep.
There's one out there
costs
now.
too much money for the company to pull
Maybe we
it
could
out.
snatch that up cheap and use it to transport to that town that we're going to buy.
Right?
There you go.
There you go.
We've just created a new business here.
I know, right? Yeah, there's one floating around out there now that caught fire. It was a car transporter. And it's there. It's just out there floating in the Atlantic Ocean because it's too expensive to scuttle it, scrap it.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine you have to completely drain all the fluids required.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And do a cleanup job and risk. So,
Yeah. But now the Igloo City Hotel was meant to be a luxury hotel. It's got a dome shape. If you don't have your if you can't see the picture, it's like a giant igloo. Okay, and it was abandoned, unfinished, and as happens, travelers report really strange noises and feelings of unease, and there are rumors of hauntings and strange activity, per the Atlas Obscura.
There's a really good article about this place on Vice magazine, and apparently all these people go in there and pee. So no wonder you would have strange feelings for some reason. Somebody started, and it just it stinks like urine real bad. Then there's bears walking around in there, and it's like it's just gross.
Baked ammonia.
Baked ammonia. Kind of like the New York City subway system.
I bet you do feel weird.
Yeah. Well, I know when we're driving, when we're around somewhere, or we're just out walking. We used to do a lot of hiking in the jungle in Panama. And, Dave would be like, the hair in the back of her head stand up. This is something weird. I'm like, what? And she's like, nothing. And I'm like, now I start picking up my pace. There's something weird here. If she feels something weird, there's something weird.
True. I think that, so anyway, I don't know what happened. I don't know if they bought it, but some brewery was looking into buying it in 2023, and they were going to turn it into a distillery or something. But I don't know, with that much pee, it's like you read those stories about people with too many cats and it just like wrecks their place. So I don't know.
Just bulldoze it. Put
up.
All
right. So that's the end.
That's the end. And these stories are just the tip of the iceberg, pun intended. I'm guessing that was an intentional pun there, Deb.
It was. That was really good reading again, Al. That was very good.
Thank you.
That was enjoyable. Very entertaining.
Yeah. Now, next week is Arizona. I think it's Arizona next week. I have to look at my alphabetical list, but I might interject that I joined some group on Facebook that they're into the Bigfoot stuff, and they have like Arizona. So I'll see if they can come on and tell us about the sightings that happened both in Arizona and looks like every state we look at so far has Bigfoot in it. So,
Bigfoot's fun though. I like stories. I like Bigfoot stories. They amuse me because it's possible.
At this point, these are his great grandchildren.
Right.
They have multiplied and gone forth.
Yeah.
Well, this was so much fun, Paul. Thank you so much for joining our.
That was very entertaining.
It's very fun. You come back next Saturday because we have fun and laugh about stuff.
Oh yeah, it's a blast.
And they add such a wonderful voice to this too because she
that was very well read.
So and hopefully Bob is okay. I know her boyfriend has had some heart stuff going on, so that might be what's happening there. But anyway, y'all, this is so much fun, and we will see you next Saturday.
Yes, ma'am.
Thanks for inviting me.
All right. Thanks. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks so much for joining us. We love hearing your stories, so tell your friends so they can join the party. For show notes and our forum of high strangeness, visit cosmicfold.com. Remember, Cosmic Fold airs live on Wednesday and Saturday nights, so be sure to subscribe and click the notification bell to know when we're on air. Thanks again and have a great evening.